our work right now on the planet is to bring honoring and sanctity to the invisible just as much as the visible. The invisible results are things like feeling good, things like feeling connected, things like our health, our well-being, a feeling of joy, pleasure.
Embodiment can't be faked. Once you're in an open state where you actually can see through a clear lens, you're not clouded by fear, you're not clouded by the amygdala, you're not clouded by society's news and all the fear-based stuff, and you're just with you. Then you get to decide where you think we actually are.
Energy is information. We're here to experience the full spectrum.
That worthiness is hard for you. There's nothing wrong with you. It is a muscle that we kind of have to learn how to access. You are not disempowered, and you have power in every area of your life all the time.
I believe that chronic illness is an opportunity for us to heal.
Health, it's a choice. Listening to your body if you so choose.
My prayer for the world would be that they would know the infinite love of God.
Aloha and welcome to the Body and Soul Wisdom Podcast, formerly known as the Embodied Healing Self Podcast, with your host, jenmons. Join me each week for soul-inspired, conscious conversations around awakening to your soul purpose through 5-element well-being. Thank you so much for joining in. Aloha and welcome back to the Body and Soul Wisdom Podcast with your host, jenmons. This is episode 174, Energy Loves Clarity. And I just want to start today by giving a shout out to Roberta, who has just been loving on me with this podcast and sharing it with her community. Thank you so much, Roberta. And also Erica, who just keeps sending me messages and sharing with everyone how much she loves the show. And I'm super grateful for your kind words. I'm receiving them. So if you guys have been following along over the past couple months, you probably have listened to quite a few episodes around the idea of prosperity. And if you didn't join over the 10-week prosperity podcast series, I'd invite you to go look for the episodes in the 150s and 156 to 165 for the 10-week prosperity experience in November and December of 2022. In the course, we've been talking so much about what does prosperity even mean? It's so much more than shifting your money mindset. In fact, mindset is just the surface. Affirmations are just the surface. We're talking about redefining and redesigning your energetic imprint to receive and trust. That's really what we're talking about. It's not about the money. That's the external thing. It's really about clarity and trust and receiving. And what we're realizing is that this shows up in so many different areas of our life. This is how we block ourselves from receiving support, or in a romantic relationship, or even in the way that we nourish ourselves with food. What do I mean by that? Well, if we're blocking ourselves from receiving, the top 3 ways that we believe things are not available tend to come through we believe we don't have enough time, money, or support. And if we're not open to receiving what is available around us, then we're not receiving and we're not living in prosperity. And most of the time we're not open to receiving is because we don't trust. Either we don't trust the other person, we don't trust the circumstances, or we don't trust ourselves. And usually what it comes down to is that we don't trust ourselves. And if you've heard me talk about prosperity consciousness before as embodied trust, one of the things I share is about that last 1%. And that last 1% comes down to trusting even when the results are not there. That's a deep, deep layer of trust that reveals intimacy on the whole level of into me I see. So what does energy loves clarity even mean? Well, if we talk about money in the sense of energy. If we just assume or we become curious that everything in our world is energy, food is energy, thoughts are energy, money is energy, everything is an exchange of energy. And you've heard me talk about energy on so many different levels throughout this podcast. I've talked about the energy of food and how it affects our well-being. And that if we are in a state of fight or flight, we don't absorb the nutrients from our food as easily as we would in a relaxed state. Our thoughts are energy. Our beliefs are energy. Everything around us is a form of energy. It's a frequency, it's a vibration, and it's a co-creation. Energy is not created or destroyed, it just changes state. And so in our prosperity course, we've been talking a lot about how money is energy. It's an exchange of energy. Maybe you've listened to my podcast on are you a conscious investor or unconscious spender? During that episode, we talk a lot about the energy of intention. And it's important to understand that whatever relationship we are entering, the place that we come from when we enter that relationship is what expands. Whether you're choosing to invest in yourself in some way or invest in something, if you're stepping into that space from a place of scarcity or fear, then that energy expands. But if you step into it from a place of trust, then that energy expands. And money is just, like a fertilizer. It expands whatever energy your intention is when stepping into a co-creation of anything. And so every decision you make on where you choose to invest or put your money creates momentum on the path of where you're going. This is really important because the words that we use, it starts with the words that we use. And there are just a couple of really powerful shifts that we can make that actually put that vibration out there of what we believe to be true. When we find ourselves using disempowering language such as I can't, then we just want to take a step back and be like, what am I really saying? What I'm really saying is I don't believe in myself. If you say I can't is a very disempowering statement to begin with. I don't is a little bit better than I can't, but what's even more empowering that is I choose. So here's an example. I can't afford that. We can shift that into I don't want to pay for that right now. And if we want to be even more empowering, we can just say, I choose to invest my resources in other places. That would be probably the most empowering thing. Maybe there's even something more than that, but that would be an example of shifting our language from disempowering to empowering. We could even look at it like, I don't have the time, or I don't have the support. To stepping into that energy of what is already available to support me at this time. So often the support that you're seeking is right there. You're just not open to receiving it. I see this happen all the time. I've saw it in myself many, many years ago. And this is like a really glamorous survivor strategy for women who are independent, women who are go-getters. Maybe they call themselves, they hustle, they boss babe, they whatever they do. I'm pretty anti-hustle culture. I'm going to do a podcast on that. As a former fierce hustler, go-getter, overachiever, perfectionist, like I totally get it. And it feels really good to be in a space where I'm helping women to redefine what that is and to know that they can show up in the world and feel really fulfilled from a total different place, from a place of alignment over hustle. And it begins with the real struggle for many of these types of women, which is really to receive support that's already there. And so often the very thing that we're seeking support on, like, it's the teacher shows up right when you're ready. When you're really in alignment, the teacher shows up when you're ready. But then the next step is are you going to allow yourself to receive the support? And this is actually a gratitude block. I'm going to do a podcast on this too. There are a couple of blocks around gratitude, because gratitude is the foundation for prosperity, and prosperity is embodied trust. And one of the gratitude blocks is just believing that you've had to do it all on your own and that nobody's actually really there to support you. So thinking about what, again, coming from a place of scarcity and lack, about what's not available. Like, I've had to do it all on my own, or my parents never supported me, or my husband didn't support me, or I'm a single mom, or I do everything on my own. That kind of thing is a really big gratitude and receiving block that takes you into lack consciousness versus prosperity consciousness. So what does energy loves clarity mean? Well, it means so many things on so many levels, but let's just start with your language and your words. Do you really believe and mean what you say? And if you really slow down to listen to the words that you use, and a really good check on this is notice the language that your children use, because they're repeating what they hear you say. Do you really believe that things are not available? Do you really believe you don't have the time, or that you don't have the money, or you don't have the support in certain things? Those are the top 3 blocks that I see. Or are you willing to become the source of your time and money and support? There's a total different shift in just taking that sovereign ownership of like, okay, I decide. I choose to do this with my time. I choose what I'm not available for and what I am available for. I choose to do this with my money. I choose what my values are based on where I spend my time and my money. And I choose what level of support I receive. So if I feel unsupported, where can I open up to receiving more support or love? Could be another word for that. And that could come from your friendship or your parents, your siblings, your spouse. It could come from your community. It could come from a number of places. So energy loves clarity means start with your words. Be intentional with the reality you want to create, because that starts with your words, which becomes your thoughts, your beliefs, your actions, your reality. And we know this, and yet so often many people are missing the most simple thing, which is how they disempower through their language. So another example of energy loves clarity is through your words, but also your actions and your decisions. If you say you want something and you want to believe that it's true, well, the next step is to take an action towards that truth that you want to embody. This is like super important. So it's not like we're in magical manifestation land where we can just believe the positive thoughts and it's going to happen. It requires aligned action. And so every decision you make creates momentum. That momentum is going to go one way or the other based on the decision that you made. So if you say you believe you don't, if you're willing to step into the space of believing that support is available, well, then it shows up. Do you allow yourself to receive it? Or do you come back to that story again? So you're shifting the belief, but you'll always be met with how do you really feel? And what do you really believe? And then there's your choice. And your choice, which is your decision, creates the momentum. Are you going to allow yourself to be supported? Are you going to allow yourself to go on that trip or buy that house or go on that date? Are you going to allow yourself to see where you are supported? I mean, in the world I live in, supporting women through this, it's amazing the way, women have, they've been supported financially from their loved ones when they believed that they didn't, when they weren't. It's just it's amazing in the way that it shows up, or at work, like a bonus comes in, or an opportunity becomes available to speak in their business or to host a retreat where they can then receive excess financial support, or even just professional support, or support with your kids and your family. It really is showing up. And when you step into that energy of gratitude and being grateful, then you're giving clarity to that energy of gratitude, which you then become aware of more to be grateful for. I mean, it's really like quite that simple when you start to shift and you just live, you just completely shift. You shift your reality, and it begins with your thoughts, your words, your thoughts, and then your actions. So your actions come from your decision. And that's where you get to really check with yourself, like, okay, you say you believe this, but what do you really believe? And what you really believe is what you take action on. And I always say, if you want to see where your values are, take a look at your schedule and your bank, your time and your money, because that's where our values are going. And we have choice in that. We all have the same 24 hours in the day. We all get to choose how we spend our time. We get to choose how we're paid, what we're paid for, and how we spend our money. So therefore, we are the source of time and money. Everyone has a choice in that. You can choose to say no. You can choose to say yes. And it's just totally shifting into that place of empowerment. Another way that energy loves clarity, we talk about this in our prosperity course, is how important it is to treat. For example, in the prosperity course, we're talking about time, money, and support, really, and how we respond to that as in a relationship. So we're treating it as a co-creation. We're empowering through our language and our choice, our action, and then we're choosing to facilitate and grow a healthy relationship. So it's not like a one-night stand kind of thing, right? Like, it's a relationship that you nurture. And you continue nurturing through intention. And so it's really important to be intentional through daily practice. And that might sound like a lot at first, but it's if you're feeling that way, then I would invite you to consider that your expectations might be too high. Daily practice is just being intentional. And over time, that daily intention just becomes who you are, and it's no longer work. You embody a new belief. You embody a new reality. So, for example, a person who wants to create, okay, first we start by saying, I want to lose weight or I want to be healthy. And then what we really need to do is create healthy habits. Once we set the intention to create healthy habits daily, even if it's just something, over time, that just is the habit, that just is who you are. You no longer have to think about it. I mean, for example, in my life, I was a health coach for 8 years. Like, I know I'm never, and there's no judgment on this, it's just where I am with my health is that I'm not even, like, the idea of eating at Chick-fil-A or drinking soda or, and I choose not to drink alcohol either for health reasons, but it's not even really in my realm of possibility, because the food that I seek at the grocery store, I buy organic foods or I go to the market and get organic foods, like, that's just my new habit. It's just my new reality. And so the same thing happens around money, the way that we spend, unconsciously spend or consciously invest. What you know to be true based on the decisions you make creates your reality. And so that it's just what your priorities are. If you choose to invest a couple $100s a month in self-care or in a gym membership or yoga practice or getting a facial, or maybe for you it's buying organic foods, or maybe investing in a program for personal development or spiritual growth, that becomes normal for you. It might feel hard at first because you've never done it before, but when you see the benefits, that becomes your reality. It just becomes your reality that, yeah, this price of transformation, or the value of transformation, is priceless, and that, this is just kind of non-negotiable for me at this point in time, because I know the value of exercise. I know the value of eating healthy. I know the value of investing in myself. I know the value of, going on a retreat or whatever that is. But once you know the value of it, and you choose to make it non-negotiable, it just becomes part of your intention for the day, the week, the month, or the year, because it's aligned with your values. So when we talk about energy loves clarity, we do talk about having systems in place to help us make decisions based on our values, because it's important to be intentional energetically to create a container and relationship through tracking. So just like a parent with children, right? Like if you don't have some way to just check in with your kids, whether they're doing their homework or how they're relating with their friends, and you really don't know what's going on, well, then you just don't know. You're not creating an intentional relationship. Intentional does not mean control. Intention is just stepping in, creating the time and space for what you value. That's all it is. It's connection. It doesn't mean that it has to be this all or nothing control or avoid type thing, which is something that I see so often happening. We create a story about what it means to all of a sudden put time and intention towards something, when all it really means is it's really just taking ownership. And energy that shows up in the world all around us through the foods that we choose to nourish with, the people that we allow into our lives, the types of relationships that we have, the friendships, the romantic relationship, the marriage, the relationship with your children, your parents, your siblings, relationship to money, relationship to nature, relationship to everything, your spiritual growth, to God, to, anything that you could think of. When we nurture it, we say this matters. When we keep choosing in a place to support it, then that energy grows. That's how it works. Whatever you put your intention into grows. What you focus on, what you put your intention to, expands. So my question for you is, what do you want to expand in your life? What do you want to expand? Do you want more time freedom? Do you want more community? Do you want deeper relationships? Do you want better health? Do you want to grow a business? Do you want to feel resourced? Do you want to grow in your own personal development? Do you want to grow your relationships with your parents, your siblings, your husband or wife? What is it in your life right now that you want to expand? And then the next question is, what do I need to be clear that this is my intention? So what do I need to do? If I say this is what my intention is right now, I really want to focus on my health, then what do I need to do? What support do I need? What decisions do I want to make? And I always ask myself 3 questions. Is this aligned with my values? Is it the right time? Does it have to be me? Before I say yes to anything. Or does it have to be me or the other person if it's a co-creation? In other words, if there's something that you're leaning into and growing around, oftentimes I find that the teacher that you're looking for steps in right when you're ready. And we're always kind of being met with that. Like, where are we? Are we really ready to step into who we're becoming? Or are we going to stay in the space over here of who we've been? Right? Like, this is what coaches do. We activate you to step into who you are becoming, not who you've been. We're moving forward into a new space of possibility. And we get to ask ourselves, is this experience aligned with my values? Is it the right time? And does it have to be me, or is this the right person for me? 3 really great simple questions that you can use to ask yourself. So today, as we bring this podcast to a close, I just want to invite you to consider, what area of my life am I ready to step into or expand or grow? And what am I ready to make a decision on? How am I ready to take that next step? Because that next step is the clarity for everything in your life to respond. It's like the universe, God, responds to your decision. And the most amazing thing is that we find that everything that we want, everything that we know is possible is right there. It's always there. We just get to choose to see that it's there. And here's the key. We have to be present enough to be aware that it's there. We have to slow down enough to see that actually the very thing that we are moving into is right there, because that's how it happens. You can't come up with that idea if it's not in you. So it's in you because it's available and it's time, and you get to choose. And that's where the clarity comes in. It's really important to know what you're available for and what you're not available for. It's important to take ownership that whatever energy you're stepping into a co-creation with is the energy that will expand. And the next step is just to trust. And trust looks like not being attached. It's like making the decision without expectations. So I'd love to hear how this lands for you. I'd love to know how the energy in your life is showing up in clarity. Because the biggest blocks around this, which I've done several podcasts on, we'll drop those links in the show notes, but the toxic cycle of people-pleasing, indecision, procrastination, those are all really big blocks to clarity that just don't allow opportunities to come to us. If we're not clear, the world doesn't know, God doesn't know what to give us, the universe doesn't know how to respond, because we're not actually clear on what we want. So my invitation to you today is to get clear on what your intention is, whether it's for the year or this month. And if this is new to you, I would invite you to check out our 13 Moons Daily Devotion group. Every month we meet and on the new moon, and we reflect on the past month, and we create a new intention for the new month. And then we also meet every quarter or every season for a 90-day mapping of personal and professional intention and growth. Like, we do everything from, we go through the 5 elements of wealth: mental, physical, emotional, spiritual, and financial. Where am I? Where do I want to be? What is my intention? What worked? What didn't work? What can I celebrate? Sometimes there's things we need to let go of. When we've been hanging on to things and we're not meeting that intention, maybe it's because it's time to let go of it. So if this is something that you'd like some support in, you'd like to join our community, I'd invite you to join that. And I hope you all have a wonderful day. I look forward to seeing you again on the podcast next week. Aloha.
The content of this podcast is to educate, inspire, and inform you of pathways to an embodied healing self. It is not intended to be a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Always seek the advice from your medical doctor, therapist, registered dietitian, or nutritionist for any questions you may have regarding your diagnosis or condition.
Friends, and thank you so much for joining again each week on the Body and Soul Wisdom Podcast, formerly the Embodied Healing Self Podcast. I am so deeply honored to share the space with you every week. I know that there are many other podcasts that you could be tuning into, and our community is expanding and growing more with each new episode. I'd like to invite you to come on over to jenmons.com/tribe and receive some of the wonderful gifts that we have for you: a meditation bundle, energetic alignment, 5-element wealth, prosperity consciousness. We have a ton of different gifts available for you to enjoy. Now, we have one small favor to ask. in order for this podcast to get into the hearts and souls of like and light-minded people, we need your support. We would love your review and would love it if you'd head on over to jenmons.com/podcast to leave a review or leave one on iTunes so that we can continue to share the love beyond out into the world. Thank you so much again for joining in. We'll see you next week.